Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and it is that time again, believe it or not. We are wrapping up 2024. It's been a weird and crazy year, a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, and a bit of everything in between. So, as I did last year, just to have something weird and interesting to look at while I babble and walk you through the year that was. We are taking a look at a little game called Pixel Fireplace. So nothing really copyrighted or anything. We're just going to type the word fireplace, and we will type log, boom, match, and we're going to light this sucker, and we have fire. Let's just throw another log on the pile here, and there we go. So, we are going to do a series of these. I think I've got about 5 videos or so planned. I've done that for the last few years. We're going to break things down by different category and such. And today and tomorrow are going to be the longest videos because they're the days that are going to be covering all of the games that I have played this year in demo form, early access form, full version, anything like that. So we're going to cover mainstream games in day one. We are going to cover retro FPS because they need a whole category of its own. There's just so many coming out these days. Day 3, we are going to cover accessible games and such. So PC, console, mobile. And I know this year hasn't been as good as a couple years in the past here, but we'll cover what we can there. And then day 4, we'll be just kind of covering some like highlights of the year, some assistive technology stuff that's been happening, some trends and such. And then finally, day 5, I will cover some of my personal highlights of the year. And I will look a little bit ahead toward next year, and hopefully it will be a good, if not better year than 2024. So with that, all that intro being said, to kick things off, just want to wish everybody a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever holiday it is that you may celebrate. And hope it's been a good year. Hope you guys got a good next year. And yeah, thank you to everybody who has been supporting my work, whether it be through the channel, watching some of the videos, guest videos I've done, presentations and such. We'll get into that later this week. Podcast appearances, listening, like I said, watching the channel, following the streams, even though that hasn't really been a thing the last year and a half or so. But nonetheless, thank you for all of the support. It is very much appreciated. And let's kick things off by going through a whole bunch of games. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, otherwise we'd be here forever. So, I literally I've been learning. The last several years I've been doing this, I would go back toward the end of the year and start writing down, what games have I played? What, game adjacent content have I read or watched or looked at or whatever. And this year, I started to document early. God forbid, I know, right? And I just started writing things down in these different categories, mainstream games, accessible games, retro, boomer shooters. And that has helped a lot. Because now when I do these videos, I just grab my file and we can go. There's really no preparation needed. Other than trying to remember what in the hell some of these things were, because I played a lot of games this year and covered a lot of games this year. So, mainstream games. Talented. Um, boy, I remember that was kind of a cool game. I don't remember a whole ton about it. Talented, talented. Oh, that was the one I think that Max had gifted me, I believe. That one was pretty cool. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I couldn't put this under the accessible category, at least for my channel, because you do need some vision to be able to play it. It does have some nice low vision, mobility, and other accessibility features. In fact, it did win the Game of or the Innovation in Accessibility Award at the Game Awards this month. But it is not a blind accessible game. I wish the studio that developed this the best of luck, because Ubisoft in general is going through a lot of crap right now. I know, and they've been, again, I know a lot of people are frustrated because so many games have some level of accessibility, but just blindness is not the category of accessibility that really seems to be happening lately. But Ubisoft has been trying. The last several years, they were one of the first AAA developers to really try to get going on accessibility and supporting whatever it is they could, even if it wasn't fully featured or if it wasn't perfect. It's like, hey, if we can help people play, at least we're giving it a shot. So Prince of Persia, that was a pretty cool game. House Flipper 2 Early Access. I gotta check back into that. I really, really enjoyed the first one, and I played a ton of that the last few years. Um, it's just kind of one of those relaxing games. You take jobs or, and just do little odd jobs for people around their houses, and then you can buy houses and renovate them however you want them to, or, you kind of look what people in the market are looking for, and then you design around that. And, I don't know, it's just a really cool, just a zen type of game that I can put on a podcast, an audiobook or something, and play it. And I haven't played it in several months, so I'm sure there has been several updates and such. And yeah, House Flipper 2, if you want a chill game, it's not bad. And I like what some of the additions and changes they've done to the sequel. Gargoyles Remastered. This is a 16-bit classic, and it's one of those that had the really cool thing of, I'm going to throw another log on there. You could go through the old school graphics and the remastered graphics, and it's a cool game, but damn, is it kind of hard. I'm not going to lie. These Disney games of the 90s, your Lion King, your Aladdin, well, of course, your Gargoyles here, they were, these 2D platformers of sorts, and a lot of them were kind of tough, but I did really enjoy the presentation of that, and I unfortunately never got too far because I suck at the game, but I thought it was still pretty cool. Tekken 8, I think I took a look at the demo early on. I still don't own it yet. I know a lot of people, a lot of blind players love fighting games, and I really liked Tekken in the past. Tekken 3 was my favorite back in the day because you had the main Tekken mode, fighting mode, but then you had like Tekken Force, which is this kind of Final Fight Fighting Force brawler. You had Tekken Ball, like this weird volleyball thing. They just had all these goofy modes, and I wish they would sort of get back into that. I do have to pick up Tekken 8 eventually when it goes on sale. I don't think it's on a very deep sale for the holiday Steam sale right now, but it is one I'm keeping my eye on. Mayhem Brawler, again, speaking of your side-scrolling beat-em-ups, this one was pretty good. I enjoyed that a bit. If you're looking for another beat-em-up, not a bad choice. Grapple Dog. This one, there's a couple of these now. I think there's a Grapple Dog 2, which I haven't gotten around to playing yet, but These are these 2D side-scrolling. You kind of got like a grappling hook, hence the name. But you're jumping, you're swinging, collecting things, and it's just a fun little platformer, and I rather enjoyed it. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. Yeah, they finally put all of the Star Wars Lego games together instead of like, the first trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and then the later stuff. Now you just buy the whole package. And, if you want a kind of a family friendly Star Wars game, there's a ton of content in there. So, it's got some on foot stuff, it's got some flying missions, it's got some vehicle missions. Like, there's a pretty good variety, I mean, it kind of builds on what Lego has been doing for many years now. Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, this one was kind of cool. I haven't checked back into it for a while, but it was in this early access when I played it, I believe. And, it's, again, ever since Vampire Survivors, and I can't believe that was 2022 or so. Yeah, everyone's kind of doing their twist on the whole Vampire Survivors thing. And it actually kind of makes sense. I like how they take the mining aspect of Deep Rock Galactic and kind of, build that into the Survivor thing. So you have these open areas, but then you have to drill through things and you get resources if you mine for resources, and it's kind of got this interesting balance. It was pretty hard, and I wonder how they balanced it later on, but it is one that I do want to get back to and check out at some point, especially if it gets, I don't know if it's hit 1.0 yet. Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore. God, that was this year too. Wow. So, remember when I streamed the Zelda CDI games, the PC port of them a couple years ago, and boy howdy, if you haven't watched those, you're in for a treat. Those games are notoriously cheeseball, and that's really the best thing I can say about them. They're something else. I think Nintendo kind of disavows their existence at this point, but once it's on the internet, it's always going to be on the internet. And Arzette Jewel of Faramore is a spiritual sequel to that type of Zelda CDI game. But here's the thing, the gameplay is actually kind of good. Like, it's that type of presentation, but the gameplay doesn't completely suck ass. So, fun little game, a neat little game. I haven't finished it yet. It's one I need to get back to, but I enjoyed what I played of it. Go Mecha Ball. God, yeah, all these, I hear these names of these games and I'm just like, oh yeah, that game. This one was kind of cool. Um, it was not really a pinball type of game, but like, you had this sort of pinball character and you were using it to like navigate through levels and combat other enemy balls. It was just a really, you'd use kind of ramps and you use your momentum and you get power-ups and things. It was just a really unique kind of game, and I'm glad that stuff like this exists. Top Racing Collection. I have not released this video yet, but if you're into a lot of the 16-bit racing games on like the Super Nintendo, your Top Gear Rally or Top Gear and Top Gear 2, and there's a couple other ones in there. Top Gear Rally was an N64 game that I remember playing, but just your old school 16-bit racers, not bad, nothing to write home about, but if you like those types of games, it's another collection. Lamasoft, the Jeff Mentor story. This is one of those Gold Master series from Digital Eclipse. This one I didn't have as much of a connection to. I found it fascinating just because of how weird the games were. But I really didn't have the connection to, like the Tetris one that came out later this year, or the Atari, or Karateka. All of those I really had more familiarity with. But I love what they're doing for not only game preservation, but like game history preservation. I love what they're doing. So I did a video on that. Oh, Balatro. Balatro. I lost many an hour to Balatro this year. This kind of poker hand, run-based card game that is really, really addictive. Started out on PC, came to consoles or mobile, and won a few game awards. I have not checked out the mod yet. Apparently there is a mod that somebody is developing. I don't know where it is in its completion, but to make it accessible to blind players. And I really do want to check that out because I want to encourage people to buy, play, and support that game. Because if you want something addictive, this isn't just your regular hand of poker. You got all these jokers, and they do crazy. They modify the way you have to think about playing the game. Like you can win a round. You can win a session by playing like pairs or a two pair or a flush. It's a really cool, really neat game made by one dude. Awesome that he got all the recognition that he did this year, because this is one of the top games of the year. Love it. Oh yeah, Darn Farm. That one I got from the developer, and it's kind of this cool, I don't know, like a Zelda-like adventure sort of thing. You're building your resources and you're going out and exploring, and check that out in kind of an early access form. And he was looking at accessibility features. So again, kudos to the developers who are, trying to put accessibility features and design into their games. So want to keep an eye on that one. Fight Night, Knight. I'm trying to remember. Obviously it's kind of something. Was this that first person beat 'em up brawler thingy? I'm trying to remember exactly which one this is. Because there was one that was sort of like this punch out-esque style, like when you get into a combat thing. I wonder if that's what this one was. Like, again, I've played so many games and done so many things this year. Like, it's impossible to remember every little thing. But I remember it being kind of cool, and I don't know that I've released that video yet. We Could Be Heroes. I did a video for the demo, I believe. It's in early access now, and they're adding to it, and at some point I'm going to do another video. Again, it's sort of your 2D beat 'em up, Double Dragon style game, but there's so much level interactivity. Like, you're fighting a whole bunch of dudes. You go into like a store, you can pick stuff off the sidewalk, the road. At the beginning of the level, there's like a little music store. You can go in there and just smash people into shelves, pick up instruments, and bash people with them. It's just the level of interactivity in that game is really cool, and that's what I really love about that one. Herald of Halibut. I did release a video for this one. I like the art style. I like the diorama kind of thing they're going for, but I just found the story and the overall kind of vibe of it kind of slow, kind of boring. Now, I don't mind a slow story, a slow burn, if it's really interesting, but I don't know. It was not doing it for me. Just a little bit too slow. Very good presentation, though. TMNT Wrath of the Mutants. This one, wait, was that one? God, there's been so many TMNT games this year. I think was that beat 'em up? I think this was that beat 'em up that came back earlier in the year. Not bad, but nothing really to write home about. Kind of your average TMNT game. Callisto Protocol. I know this didn't come out this year, but again, I'm putting games that I played in some form. A lot of people gave crap for this one because it came out right around the same time as Dead Space did, I think last year. And I didn't mind it. Like, it was really a lot more focused on melee combat, and it had a nice high contrast mode. I just thought it was a pretty cool game. You had combat, you had some puzzle solving, some traversal stuff. The high contrast mode did definitely help because that game is really, really dark in a lot of places. And I rather enjoyed that game. Little Kitty, Big City. Again, another cool little art style, but you're this kind of cartoony 3D platformer type of game. You're doing little quests for other critters that you see. You can kind of, I like how you can kind of run up against humans and trip them, and then you can go steal their stuff. That's pretty funny. But essentially, the game starts where you actually the kitty's sleeping on the windowsill, ends up falling out of the apartment, and has to eventually get back home. Um, Pretty forgiving, but kind of a charming little game. Ninja Survivors. Oh, this was. It's like a shinobi style kind of brawler thing. I don't remember too much about this one, but I remember it being pretty cool. That's all I can really say about that one at the moment. Iron Cast. I was kind of looking for a game, like in the middle of the year, I remember looking for more games that I could just play where I really didn't need a whole lot of audio. Whether it's a puzzle game or, something like Power Wash Simulator, House Flipper, that I could catch up on all my podcasts and books and such. This is your like a mech themed match 3 puzzler. Think of like Puzzle Quest. And it is a pretty cool game, and it gets pretty in depth with all the systems that you have to manage and kind of follow, like overheating in your weapons, and it's kind of neat. Hades 2 Early Access. I did play a little bit of that, and I like where it's going, but I think this is a game that I'm really not going to go back into until it hits 1.0, just so that, things get ironed out for, what gameplay content is in there, the whole story, that kind of a thing. And what really sort of frustrates me is I know it's a small team, but like, I know there's mods for the first game and whatnot, and I know it's very popular amongst some blind players, but that's all the more reason I really wish that the game was designed with blind players in mind. I wish they would add accessibility features, menu narration for all the boons and stuff like that, audio cues and navigation. Because I really like, they do really great audio design already, and I think if they would just add a few little things, I would love to see this being made natively accessible, because these are just such great quality games in general from the gameplay and story perspective. So I don't know if they will, but I'm not holding my breath, unfortunately. But it is something we will look back into when it fully comes out. Dope Game. This one was kind of weird. It's kind of, I've seen different versions of it. Like, there's been Mule, Mule. There Drug Wars. There's just kind of these like textual games, like where you're trying to manage your drug empire and sell and deal and buy drugs and not get caught. And it's kind of just, it's more of like a textual type of game. Like I said, I've seen a lot of different variations on this in the past, but this is one that I remember taking a look at this year. Forspoken. This is another one that got a lot of hate when it came out, and I've wanted to check it out for a long time, and I finally got a chance. It's a third-person action adventure type of game. Legend of Zelda, not really quite Zelda-ish, but maybe a little bit. A lot of exploration, some cool platform. The thing I liked about that game was that I liked the main character's movement abilities. It was really fun because she could just zip around the environment. You had some, kind of a dashing, and the way your jumps worked and everything. You can kind of put that also into combat. But I found a lot of the just zipping around the 3D environment to be pretty fun because you could get going at a pretty good clip. But that was kind of a neat game. Dungeons of Blood and Dream. I believe this might be out in full now. I think when I originally played it, it was early access. Kind of a first-person dungeon crawly type of thing. I haven't done a video for it yet, but I really should. And I did talk to the developer a little bit via Twitter and suggested a few things, at least to improve low vision accessibility. Because it was pretty good, but I remember there were being a few things that were still a little bit tricky for me. Especially, everything was really pixelated with the art style and the text and everything. And just having somewhat of a clearer font for some things would be really helpful. But maybe we'll take a look at that one at some point next year. Rogue Prince of Persia. This is one that I picked up on sale. They did the other Prince of Persia game, and then right after that, Ubisoft goes, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing another kind of spin on the 2D Prince of Persia. And the funny thing is, I've had it in my library forever, and I still have yet to play it. I've been meaning to. I know they've added to it over the last few months, but I've been meaning to play it, and just other things keep coming up. And it's one that I thought that the reason I put it in this list is because I thought I would have played it by now. But alas, I have not. And since it's not fully out, I'm sure we'll be taking a look at it at some point on the channel in the future. Hellblade 2. This game had really, really good audio and presentation. I really do. This is one that I wish also had a few things just to make it more like blind accessible, because the audio in this game, if you wear headphones, not, yes, it's all the crazy voices in her head and everything, but like just the audio design, the soundscape in general of this game was fantastic. It was a beautiful looking game. Gameplay was a little bit on the thin and repetitive side. Either you were just sort of walking and listening to the voices in your head. You had a few minor kind of puzzles and navigational things. You had you'd go into these environments and I forget what it was. There was like these crystals you had to break or find or something. And you had to do that like 3 or 4 times. You have 2 crystals, and then you have 3, now you have 4 or 5. So there was a repetitive quality to it. And again, the combat in it kind of had this, you were kind of standing in one place. Not really punch out, but sort of punch out adjacent. It was a neat game. Maybe not the best as far as gameplay goes, but the story was okay. But the presentation was really fantastic. Very talented studio. I just wish their games played a little bit better. And as good as their audio is, I wish that they had blind accessibility, because if they could just take that a little bit further and use their amazing audio design skills and make that a little bit more playable for blind players. I played that on Game Pass this year, so it was pretty neat. Old School Rally. Covered the demo. The whole game just came out not terribly long ago, and I played a little bit more of it. I'm terrible at this game because it's actually hard, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I am enjoying what I'm playing. I just need to sit down and find time to actually improve my skills, because yeah, you got to be pretty damn fast, and even though it's rally, you're not racing against other cars. It's so easy to get off track and everything and lose that precious second where you can't unlock the next race. But maybe we'll cover the full game on the channel at some point here too. Aero GPX. This is that F-Zero-esque kind of game. They even had some flying parts of levels and stuff to them, which is kind of crazy. Played the demo of that. I can't remember if it's an early access or full access right now, but that was this one I need to get back to. Cryptmaster. This is one that I absolutely need to get back into. I played the demo. I bought the game when it was on sale, and I just haven't gotten back to it. Check out the demo video for this because, again, this is a game I would love to see made. A few more things to make it like blind playable. It's first person and it's grid based movement, but the cool thing is like you're this weird skull dude like he talks to you and he gives you clues and like you're learning words to use as weapons. Like it's such a weird and cool idea, but it's hard to explain. It's hard to distill into like a straightforward explanation that actually makes sense. But it's a really, really cool concept for a game, and I really need to get back to it. G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra. God, played the demo of this. It's a 2D beat 'em up again. The whole game is out. I have not picked it up. I don't know if it's on sale again for the holiday sale. Part of me wants to pick it up, and part of me is like, I don't know. It would have to be on a deep discount because the gameplay is okay for a straightforward brawler, but like with a license from G.I. Joe, you have all these unique over the top characters, and yet the presentation, other than the intro theme song video, um, it's so lifeless. It just doesn't. There's not. You don't really have voice acting. You don't have. There's just. It's so flat, for lack of a better word. And I remember a few people actually even commented on the video when I did the demo video, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right. This really needs to be amped up a bit for all the, the voices and craziness and the characters of that series." Cavern of Dreams. It's an N64 style platformer. I don't remember too much about it. I mean, it was kind of neat, but I enjoyed it when I started it, but it's not one that I really came back to, unfortunately. Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary. I have done a video for it, but I don't think I've released it yet. This was a game that came out in, I think it was like 2003. I remember that was when Prince of like that year, it was just I had no money, but there was so many games that came out that year around the end of the year. There was like the Prince of Persia Sands of Time, which was amazing. Beyond Good and Evil, which is great. There was a few other games, and I just remember that fall being brutal for games that I wanted to play, but I just couldn't afford them. Um, yeah, that one is you would call it like a Zelda, 3D Zelda action adventure type of game. But it absolutely had its own very unique characters and setting and style, and then like there's a photography element to the game. So look forward to that video at some point in the fairly near future. Double Dragon Advance. I saw some of these old Double Dragon games being ported to Steam. Video hasn't come out yet, but it's kind of lackluster. I was hoping that it would be a little bit better. But again, if you want to get access to some of the old Double Dragon games, you could. Still Awakes the Deep. I really enjoyed this one. I played all the way through this, did a video for it. It was about this guy. They're working on this ship over in, where is it, like Scotland or something? I love the characters in that game, just the way, like the accent and their language, like the way they talked. It was just like, kind of had this like general, I don't know, vulgarity to them. But it was a sort of like first person like actiony survival horror type of thing. There was all these weird anomalies or these weird things happening on this boat or this big ship. You were trying to get off of it. It was just a really, really cool presentation. Like the unique setting. I really enjoyed it. I remember playing this on Game Pass. Questmaster. This is another one that I definitely need to get back to, especially as they add more to it. It's still in early access. Because remember how there was Mario Maker games? Well, Nintendo's not doing it, so somebody said, okay, well, we're going to make our own knockoff. Legend of Zelda, 2D Zelda Maker. And what I've played of it so far, it's real good. They've got some sample dungeons. They've got, again, you can play user created dungeons. You can share your own. They've been adding different themes. So now they just added like an ice dungeon fairly recently to the latest update. When I took a look at it, there was only like 1 or 2 dungeon sets out there. But I think they're up to like 4 or 5. And they've added different bosses, different like gameplay mechanics, and you know, like puzzle elements or like switch things you can do. So yeah, people are going to be able to make their own Zelda dungeons. It's pretty cool. Asphalt Legends Unite. This should be a really cool game, and it could be, but it's designed around your mobile and your modern frickin' games as a service bullshit. And so you kind of got this simplified Burnout-esque driving where you can smash into other cars and take them down. But it's limited by this stupid, oh, you can only have so much fuel and you got to pay real money to, you can only play so many rounds and then you have to wait. There's timers and there's like how many different versions of currencies. I freaking hate that type of game design. Design a game around the gameplay. If you need to monetize a little bit, that's fine. But don't design a monetization system and then throw a game around it. And like I said, what's really annoying about a few of these recent games that do this is that the core gameplay, before it was like, okay, I can ignore most of these because the gameplay around these monetization systems sucks. But now you're starting to see these games that actually have, fairly decent gameplay to them. But you don't want to play because you got all these currencies and microtransactions and mega transactions and timers and all this bullshit that gets in the way of it being a game. So, since recording that video, I have not gotten back to it. Conscript. I don't even remember what this game is. Conscript? I don't know. I just know it's a game that I played, and I don't remember what it is. I got nothing. I'm sorry, but I don't remember what that game is. Crime Scene Cleaner. This was a pleasant surprise. I remember playing a demo for it earlier this year, and then it came out, August, September? And it's kind of got that sort of like House Flipper meets Viscera cleanup detail. You're this guy who he needs to get a whole bunch of money so he can help his family. And he gets in deep with this like kind of crazy mobster guy, and you're going up like cleaning after his shenanigans, like cleaning up dead, crime scenes and dead bodies, and there's blood and everywhere, and you're going from like fitness centers or spas to apartment buildings to like restaurants. Just it was a really fun game, and I did get all the way through the story, and I rather enjoyed it. Pretty cool. I remember there's a museum level. Yeah, really, really just a fun game. Super Polygon Grand Prix. Again, kind of your 90s era racing game. Sounds like he's really in the process of revamping it again, so I'm sure by the time it hits 1.0, we'll be taking a look at it again just to see how it's changed. But I know he's seen my videos, and we've chatted a couple times on Twitter a little bit, so I've mentioned a few things about accessibility, so we'll see what happens with that. But really fun arcade, 90s era arcade style racing game. Star Wars Outlaws. Again, this game has a lot of accessibility features, but I would not call it blind accessible. I love the sort of like it's not just telling the story of the movies again. You kind of play this rogue kind of bounty hunter kind of person, and you're kind of seeing the underside, kind of the more grimy side of the Star Wars universe. And I know they've done a lot of revamping with like they had some insta fail stealth sequences toward the beginning of the game, and they've really kind of gutted and redone some of the gameplay and mechanics and things like that. So this is one that I may need to try to get back into. They've added a few more accessibility features post launch, but I don't think it's still blind playable. But they've had some low vision features. They've had, you know, physical and motor. They've had again, it's where they've had a lot of accessibility, but just not necessarily total blindness accessibility. But it is a neat game that the problem is that these big games like this that take 20, 40 hours, I just don't have so much time to devote to them anymore. Especially when I'm trying to, jump from game to game and, whether I'm consulting on a game or whether I'm trying to just make sure that I keep having content for the channel. I just, when I have time to play a game, it's so hard to, unless I get really, really, really hooked into these really longer games, it's hard to get through them all. Beyond Hanwell, this is this really interesting first person, kind of almost like a horror type of game. I think it's in early access still, and it is one that I'm definitely going to kind of come back to as it gets more toward release. Kind of a first person shooter, but also sort of a horror type of game. I remember the developer, I can't remember if the developer reached out to me or if he saw my video. Um, but we'll see if any accessibility features get added into that one for the full release. But it's one I'm definitely keeping an eye on. Castlevania Dominus Collection. Hell yeah. Remember, we had the Advanced Collection a year or two ago. Now we have the DS games. Dawn of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, Portrait of Ruin, another one. They brought back a really old, weird arcade Castlevania game, which admittedly does not play super well. But then they made their own like updated version of it. So yeah, we got most of our classic Castlevanias. But what they really need to do to let's finish this off, let's do it proper. I know there's a couple platforms that have it, but please, for the love of God, give us one more collection that we can play on Steam and the other platforms that don't have it. We need Rondo of Blood, but more importantly, Symphony of the Night. Then I will be happy, and then they need to make some new ones. They need to make a new Castlevania. Because look at Bloodstained that came out a year or two ago, or a few years ago, whenever the hell that was a few years ago already. Yeah, because that was when Riley was up here. God dang, son. Seems like that just came out like a year or two ago, but no, that would have been like 4 years ago. Jeebus. But yes, I would love to see Symphony of the Night to round all this Metroidvania stuff. Round it off. And, Kami seems to remember, oh, wait, we can make video games again. So, I'd love to see them take a crack at a new Castlevania game. Isakang 0 to 0. I got gifted this game. This is a weird fucking game. Watch the video. It's kind of like a... I don't even know what to call it. Some people might call it a shitpost game. It's like a mostly story-based game with narration and kind of very, very, very light RPG elements, but not really. I just watched the video. That's all I can really say about that game because it's just weird. South Park Snow Day. Haven't released the video, but I've got one recorded for it. Actually, this would be probably a pretty good one to release pretty soon. And, with we just got our first major snowfall as I'm recording this like 2 days ago. So, the last couple of South Park games have been really good. I'm not typically into turn-based RPGs, but they've been great. Um, this one is back to more of it's like a third-person action game, and I I want to like it, and I see what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't play super well. It's kind of repetitive, and like with everything being snow, like everything is just sort of, I don't know. It's just I'm not liking it as much as I want to. Like there's some neat stuff. I like what they're going for, but there's just something that just does not play right or feel right, and you'll see when I release the video. Castaway. This was another kind of shorter Zelda-esque kind of game that I really rather enjoyed. I don't know if I've released the video for that yet, but if I haven't, again, this is another one that you will see soon enough. Remember that like, especially for games that aren't necessarily timely, I just get to them whenever. I pre-record a lot of things ahead of time, so if I have a technical problem, if I'm out of town for whatever reason, if I'm sick, I can just queue up games, videos that I've already recorded, and you guys don't know any better. You guys just continue with the regular release schedule as planned. But yeah, Castaway was a pretty fun little surprise. Garden of the Sea. This was another one that I remember I got from a code from the developer, I believe. Kind of a really neat little chill exploration game. I believe this was that first person one. Again, just something if you want to really just more of like an exploratory game. No real fail states from what I can tell. Just kind of a neat little peaceful game. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. A lot of people were happy about that because you got a lot of your like Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff like that in there. I mainly wanted it for the Punisher arcade game because I remember playing that in the arcade once or twice, and then I believe there was a Genesis version. But yeah, so I was mainly getting it for the Punisher arcade game. I'm really bad at the Marvel vs. Capcom, those types of games. There's so much craziness going on visually that it's just like this burst of colors and effects and particles, and I don't know, it's neat, and I've just never been into the tag team style fighters. I like the one-on-one a lot better. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. I did release a video for this one, and yeah, this is a game that came out originally in the PS3 era. I played through it. I beat it on the PS3. They've brought it out for your modern gaming platforms. Unfortunately, they seem to have removed some of the original music that was in the original games. Well, not original music, but licensed music that was in some of the in the original version. And it kind of sucks because some of the songs that they had in there, they really fit this sort of cheesy vibe to it. Like I remember one of them, the main one was "Hey Mickey," and it really fit with you're this crazy cheerleader fighting zombies, and the twist with that you find out it's in the video what happens to her boyfriend and how he fits into the game. Just stupid fun, Sometimes you just want stupid fun. You're this cheerleader with a chainsaw cutting down zombies. What's not to like? Squirrel with a Gun. Again, this was a neat little game. I I'm terrible at it, but it's this 3D kind of platformy thing. And yeah, you're a squirrel, you get a gun, and all kinds of shenanigans ensue. You know, we've had I don't know if it's on the list here, if I forgot to put it on, but like Another Crab's Treasure was another game that I played this year where it was like you're this crab and it's kind of like this Souls-like, but you're playing this little crab fighting other undersea creatures, and you're collecting like this garbage that you can put on like for shells, and it gives you different armor. And that one, I love the cheat on that one because instead of just having like a god mode, no, just give the crab a gun for an accessibility thing. It works as a joke, but it's also like, oh yeah, one hit kill, boom, just take out enemies with a gun. Just really stupid, but I love it. Maniac, yeah. This is a game that I'm probably going to release a video for either Christmas or Christmas Eve. If things go well, I have another Christmas themed video that I'm going to try to do, but I'm not going to spoil what that is in this video. So you're going to have to find out if I'm able to do that or not. You'll see it. But Maniac, this 2D overhead game, and you just try to, well, you're a maniac. You cause as much destruction and damage and murder as you can. And it just so happens your first character that you play is this drunk Santa Claus character. So, yeah, Merry Christmas to all with that one. Victory Heat Rally. This was a fun little arcade racing game. I'm trying to think of how to describe the style. It's not really like, it's kind of got an arcade racer, but it's really pixely. But it's got a really unique look and feel all its own, and I like it a lot. It's one that I definitely want to play more of. I've played a bit more since I've recorded the video, but that was another one I got through the developer, and I've really enjoyed that one. Night Slashers Remake. This is a game that I guess I had never played or heard of the original, but it's a 2D brawler, beat 'em up, but it's kind of got all these like kind of horror themed creatures and stuff like that. So a good Halloween type of game, action game, just pretty fun. And I don't remember if the video for that one is out yet, but I do have one recorded. Parking Garage Rally Circuit. I do have a video for this, but it's not out yet probably as you're seeing this. It will be soon. Again, really unique premise for a game. You're going through all these like parking ramps, and so you're weaving between all the poles and all the parked cars, and there's different obstacles and things, but it's really instead of like a racetrack or through city streets, it's just like a really you have a lot of these tight corners, and you're going up and down because obviously parking ramps, and there are jumps and things. It's a really challenging but fun and unique game. TMNT Splintered Fate. This one I really enjoyed, and I want to get back into more. Came out on the Switch earlier this year, finally came to PC this fall. If you like Hades, I've heard it called Hades in a Half Shell, which I really like. It's fully voice acted. It's a run-based game just like Hades is. You can play any of the turtles. You're trying to save Splinter. You've got a couple different ways you can like upgrade your character during a run, or you've got a currency or two where you can, get permanent upgrades. It's a really, really good TMNT game. And if you like the Hades style action RPGs, this is a really good one of those. I'm very pleasantly surprised. Monopoly, got this one from a developer, and I wish that it was made blind accessible, because I think with a couple minor tweaks and menu narration, this absolutely could be. But again, it's digital Monopoly. You don't have to worry about setting up the board and cleaning up the mess, and you can save your game. And what is it, like 1 to 6 players? I like the presentation of it. Um, Not really a lot else to say. It's just the latest version of video game version of Monopoly. Karate Kid Street Rumble. Haven't released a video for it yet, but I have played all the way through that game. I've beaten it. It's a 2D brawler, beat 'em up, and it's not too bad. I know that it had some mixed reviews when it came out this fall. I didn't pick it up right away. I picked it up on a sale, but I'm glad I did. I rather enjoyed it. There are a few little mini games here and there to mix things up, but I didn't care for those all that much. But the actual beat 'em up stuff was not bad. I rather enjoyed it. You can play a lot of different characters. Daniel, Mr. Miyagi. Um, I forget what is her name. There's like 3 or 4 different characters that you can play as, and they all have their own different fighting styles and stuff. Kind of got your kind of cartoony style, but it follows the events of like the first 3 movies. Fun little game, not bad. Blind Fire. I've been trying to play this one, but unfortunately, I can't. I have not been able to get into a game. Um, it's in like an early access right now, and it's a neat idea. This is why I really want to play it because it's like this first person shooter where you're relying a lot on audio to play, and it's like a very minimalist, like almost like a black and white art style. And like you see things when there are sounds, but I know I and a couple other people have gotten in contact with the developer, and with their focus on audio so much in this game, I really hope that they do implement some accessibility for blind players, because I think this is one where we could be on pretty equal footing. And this is why I really want to play the game and be able to do a video for it so I can give further feedback to the developers and show you guys, because like I said, unfortunately I just haven't been able to join a game, but I do want to. I'm very intrigued about the premise, so stay tuned for that. Karate Survivor. Oh dear God. This is, again, the Vampire Survivors thing. This is a version that I got really sucked into for a good couple weeks, and I've heard they've added an endless mode now. I did beat the full game, but I love it because it takes like your Vampire Survivors, but it puts it in like a 80s action movie setting. And I love how you use the environments for your combat, like not only using the environment as a weapon, but then also like I can like vault over counters, I can slide under tables, I can run up walls, I can again use and pick up things in the environment and either topple them onto enemies or use things in the environment as weapons. All kinds of different themed levels from like a grocery store. The bar is probably my favorite level. That one's just fun. There's a rooftop level. There's a construction site level that was a real pain in the ass. There was a subway level. There might have been one more, but I can't remember. But just really, really good take on the survivors thing. I hope they add more levels to it or different types of environments, because I would love to continue playing that game. There's a lot they did with, they had a card system sort of where you would build your combos if you got the cards in the right color and the right order. Just a really unique game. I loved it. 420 Blaze It 2. Everyone was saying that the shooter aspect of this is a lot better, and it kind of is, but I'm terrible at the game. I don't know that I'm going to do a video for it, but I don't know, man. I played the original and I covered it on the channel ages ago, but apparently they made a sequel this year. Again, it's just like a bunch of memes and weird shit posts, and I don't follow that whole culture, so a lot of that is completely lost on me. I just picked it up for cheap because it's like, well, it's a shooter. People are saying it plays better than it should. I couldn't get into it that much, really, so meh. Vampire Survivors Castlevania DLC. Holy crap, I need to finish this. I did a video for it, and I've played it a little bit since. It's a damn good expansion. They've had a Contra one, this Castlevania one, man, it's its own map, but it's this ginormous map. You've got an outdoor area with forests and stuff. You've got your castle. You have all the different sections of your castle. There's tons of bosses, the teleporter areas. I mean, it's just like if you played Symphony of the Night or any of these like Game Boy Advance, DS versions of Castlevania, you will feel right at home. And I've heard the big boss finale in this is just phenomenal. They have remixes for a lot of the Castlevania music in there. I've heard there's like 30 different Castlevania characters or so that you can unlock. I mean, it is just a love letter to Castlevania, which remember when Vampire Survivors came out originally, we're like, how are they not getting sued for this? We've got like the weapons, the enemies, the weapons reacted. You have your whip, your holy water, your crosses. It was Castlevania as fuck to begin with, but now they've just fully embraced it, and Konami's behind it, and I love them for it because it is really, really fun. Tetris Forever. This is another of that Gold Master series that I talked about earlier from Digital Eclipse. And give me 1 minute, I need a sip of water. A lot of different versions of Tetris. It is a shame that Nintendo has to do their own thing because they don't have the Game Boy version, they don't have the NES version. I really want them to add Tetrisphere DLC. Come on, please, make it happen. But it's a really interesting storyline history lesson of Tetris, which I have not gotten all the way through yet, but I fully need to because I love Tetris. It's just one of the purest, timeless, best games ever made. And yeah, Tetris Forever, highly recommended. Dragon Age The Veilguard, your BioWare RPG. I've covered that on the channel. And I don't know how much I'm going to be able to play it because the stupid shader compilation thing that happened, it didn't happen the first couple times I played it, but now when I try to run it, it just makes my computer turn into a jet engine with its fans, and with the power spike for the shader compilation, it just pisses off my UPS until it shuts my computer down. So really, developers, you got to stop doing that. You don't max out the whole system just to do your shader compilation. Put a cap on that. I did not know that could even be a thing, but I learned something interesting this year. I mean, it does have some decent accessibility features in it, though. Again, it's not blind accessible, but they do have some decent accessibility features in it. Watch the video if you want to see that. Hot Wheels Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem. It's focused on the freestyle events that you would have in like a Monster Jam event. And it's really fun. It's a little bit more arcadey than the official Monster Jam game, which I also looked at this year. And it's really good. I actually kind of almost prefer it to the Monster Jam game in the freestyle aspects of it anyway, just because it is a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more over the top and arcadey. But it's a lot of fun and absolutely one that I'm going to try to get all the way through. Monster Jam Showdown. Again, this is the official Monster Jam game, but it has not just freestyles, but you have races and head-to-heads, and you have a few different types of events. So it's not just the freestyle. If you want a little bit more variety, you want a little bit more between like a sim and a arcade-style game, you can do that. Thank goodness you're here. I heard this one was supposed to be really funny, but I just released a video for it, and it's really got this British humor. I don't really watch enough Monty Python because I never really liked Monty Python that much. Um, but it's if you like that kind of humor, you'll love it. I was just kind of left more, I don't want to like kind of confused and just kind of whatever. Um, but it's you just walking around slapping people and slapping things and hitting them just to see what kind of interactions, and you're solving very light puzzles, and it's got a cartoony art style. Like it's not bad. It's just it really hinges on the fact as to if you're gonna enjoy the humor or not. That will determine if you're gonna like the game. AEW Fight Forever. I've been waiting on this one for a long time to go on sale because it's a wrestling game that really goes back to the N64 era, the grappler style wrestling games of like WrestleMania 2000, and it plays pretty much like that. I really like the way their engine works for that. The gameplay is fun. They've got this cool, like, what is it, like explosive barbed wire match. There's a game that I don't think even has players anymore for it, and I wish they had bots for, but they released an update that had this like stadium, almost like a battle royale type of mode where you're just picking up weapons and bashing dudes in a stadium that looked fun as hell. But again, it just never got the player base that it needed, so I don't know if I'll ever be able to play that mode. But you know, if I want to just go back and play a wrestling game that's kind of in that N64 era, it's not bad. I just wish like my knowledge of wrestling, I know a little bit of stuff from the 80s and early 90s, but the Attitude Era is where I really paid any attention to wrestling. Beyond that, like today's wrestlers, not a clue. I maybe know one or two, three people, but so I didn't know the roster, but it was still a fun game. Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. I've started playing that. I'm gonna record a video for it soon. Um, I don't like it as much as the TMNT games, but it's a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up. Apparently there are some, I don't know if they're first or third person, these Megazord battles. They do a few different kind of bonus game modes to kind of mix things up a little bit. So hopefully we'll see that and I'll be able to cover that in a video. But you know, I'm not as big a fan as the Power Rangers as something like the Ninja Turtles. I'll talk a bit more about that in the video, but stay tuned for that. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I just released a video for that today as I'm recording this video. The attention to detail that they have for like the Indiana Jones character and franchise is amazing so far. I've played a bit since recording the video. There are sort of linear sequences. There are kind of openish level, openish world segments. Like I'm still in the Vatican, and it's this big open area. Again, remember games like the Chronicles of Riddick, where you had some linear sequences, and then you would be going around like a more open area in the jail in a few different places. And that kind of seems to be a similar vibe that we have for the Indiana Jones games. But it's first person, but it's really good. It runs well. What's his name? I just went stupid again. Whatever. The guy who does the voiceover for Indy is mostly spot on. Like if you didn't know any better, he could pass as Indy very well. So really enjoying it so far. We'll see how much more I get through it, but I'm enjoying it a lot right now. And you know what? That'll do it for day one. Those are just some of the mainstream games. There's a few that I probably missed or forgot to put on here. But yeah, that is some of the mainstream games that I played this year. Then tomorrow we're going to take a look at the retro FPS stuff, because there's a lot of good ones in there too. So stay tuned for that and other topics throughout the rest of the week leading up to New Year's. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, Blue Sky at Illegally Cited, twitch.tv/illegally cited, illegally-cited.com, and of course right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.